You're on air with Douglas, where fans are connected to their favorite celebrities. And now, here's your host, Douglas.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to On Air with Douglas. This is part two of a double booking. I only do this for you fans out there. I never do a double booking, so this is awesome. We get to talk to two of your favorites tonight. This guest is Ryan Scott Greene. I actually, when I was rewatching Queer as Folk over the holidays, since nothing was on television, and I got to the fifth season, at the end of the fifth season, I was like, who's this guy that's playing Brandon? So I did some investigation, and then, of course, everybody knows I'm trying to get as many of the people who've been associated with the show on our show, and I had no idea that he had such a huge fan base. Those people out there are quite territorial and passionate about Ryan. So I thought, well, I'm going to bring him on. So welcome, Ryan, to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, Douglas.
Thank you. Oh yeah, it's been a whirlwind ever since I decided. After as I was saying, I was rewatching the series, and I thought, well, I've been on the air for 2 years, and I've never reached out to the people who've been part of that show. So I was like, it's one of my favorite shows of all time. And I thought, I'm just going to go for it. So we had Gail on a few weeks ago, and then we had Scott on just before this, and then we have you. And then for fans out there that are just tuning in, next week I have a double show with Robert Gant, who played Ben, and also Harris Allen, who played the foster son Hunter. And then next Thursday we have Michelle Clooney, who played Melanie Marcus. So that's a lot of Queer as Folk fandom for you guys out there. So I do I appreciate everybody tuning in. And Ryan, you got some amazing fans. I mean, they're just, I'm sure you know it by now. It's like the RS Greeners out there are like ready for this.
Yeah, I got lucky. It seems like that statement comes out of my mouth more often than anywhere else when it comes to this show. It just, as you said, you used the term whirlwind, and I was floating around on Twitter doing my thing, and it just started to grow and grow and grow, and then we had the Queer as Folk reunion cast convention here in Los Angeles this past summer. And I think from the moment the morning started to the next time I could get to my phone later that afternoon, I think the followers on Twitter had tripled. Somehow through the, obviously the tweeting and the retweeting on Twitter. So, I get lucky. These guys are great, and they amuse me every day. I mean, I'm not always able to chime in as much as they'd like, I think, but when I get home at night and I'm sitting there reading through the day's worth of tweets, it's worth a couple of good laughs, that's for sure.
Yes, that is awesome. Well, we'll start with now. Is there anything that you're working on now that we can look forward to seeing you, in the future? Well,
I was thinking about that today because I got a couple calls. I actually have a busy week coming with auditions, but where I like to call this time kind of a blank slate here in LA. I mean, obviously there's some people that are, going from project to project, but for a lot of us, we're still kind of relying on what we call pilot season, which, has changed a lot over the years. And in the past few years, it's become really, really competitive and quite dicey as an actor. But Sundance is going on, and then pretty much once everybody kind of gets back in town and gets settled from that, we all hit the ground running with potentially the new shows of the fall, doing their casting and doing what they're doing. So I'm just kind of trying to just stay ready and stay focused and hope that the next couple of months is a busy time.
Yeah, definitely. You've been on some great shows, and I'm sure all your fans want to see you, back on television as soon as possible in something. Be nice if you got the lead in something great, so we can tune into you every week. That's what.
Yeah, well, I get very lucky because, of course, it's great to have that support, and then once pilot season down here in Los Angeles and the States in general kind of comes and goes, and whether you're on the lucky side of the camera or not, I'm fortunate enough to be able to travel up to Canada in the summer, which is a totally different season for production. So I actually get, out of my year, I get 2 solid pilot seasons, one here in the States, and then my summer's up above north of the border.
Yeah. So were you living in, just switch gears to Queer as Folk, was you living in L.A. at the time, or was you living in up there in Canada when you got the role, since that's where it was filmed?
I was living in Los Angeles. I was living, I believe, at the time in the Valley, over in Studio City, and was not locked in, but I was pretty anchored here. I had an apartment and a car and on all those things, and the audition story for Queer as Folk, which is kind of a classic one for me, kind of came up, and it went my way, and so I was off to Toronto for most of definitely the last half of 2004, and then the better part of the first half of 2005. So there was a little bit of traveling back and forth, but yeah, I had to shack up in a hotel for the Queer as Folk shoot.
Yeah. Now, so was that just a general audition that you went to, or is it something specific that's special that came your way, or how did that come about?
Well, I was. It's kind of a humorous story, or at least humorous to me. I was at work. I was working in a restaurant, a diner at the time, and I got a phone call from my agent in Canada, and she was very adamant that I get this material put on tape and sent to her in Canada so she could submit it for the show. And I said, well, that's it's something that I've done many times before, and I was like, great, send me the sides and I'll get it to you as soon as I can. And she was like, no, I need it today. Now, this was 2:00, maybe 1:00 in the afternoon. Toronto's already 3 hours ahead of Los Angeles, so I'm kind of looking at my wrist and thinking, okay, how important is this? Because this is probably impossible. She was like, it's really, really important. So I was like, okay. I rushed up. I talked to my boss. I rushed out of work. I ran to got my friend's place who does all my self-taping down here in Los Angeles. We essentially hammered out what I would call the worst audition I've ever done in my life, only because I had very little time to prepare the sides. And maybe a month and a half later, I got a phone call that I was first choice for the show, and I literally didn't know what they were talking about. I was flabbergasted that could even happen, because I didn't even remember what was going on. So finally, I got the information that I was going to have to go to Showtime and meet the producers and the execs there to get approved, and producers in Toronto really liked what they saw, and I was moving forward if I could, and that all went well, and I met Dan and Ron, and again, that's all kind of history. But once I knew that I was in and what was coming my way, I was full speed ahead. But the way that it happened was very much a surprise for me.
Yeah, the role of Brandon, it was just a short role, but it made such an impact on the season or the series. In winding down, Brandon comes in and he's like, sort of like the same as Brian, played by Gil Harold, and you kind of gave, Brandon kind of gave him a run for his money there at the end. And I kind of wish that, and I'm sure a lot of fans do, that we had a little bit more, Brandon prior to just those final scenes in those episodes, because I think there could have been some fun there, even more fun with that character of Brandon.
Yeah, well, exactly. And you kind of cut out on me, Douglas, but I think I know what you said. It was just this. I just really liked. I mean, it was just this amazing kind of like this feeling just to be able to come in and people are like, oh, like, I mean, I remember somebody asked me, what it felt to be the bad guy, and I was like, well, it's funny because I never really ever thought about it that way. It was just someone who was living his life and had something in his way, and I guess that went. I guess that was going for both characters. There was, life living, and something, an obstacle appeared. But that amazing kind of understanding at the end was, at least at the end of my arc, because of course the last stuff I shot was for the final episode that never made it in. But yeah, it was a really fun moment for me. The whole shoot. I mean, the whole 8 months that I had on that show was just unbelievable. Yeah.
Now you say that the final stuff you taped wasn't aired. What did we miss out? Was there something that we should have seen?
Well, I I bring this up, and of course I had always wondered if it was something that I was, allowed to talk about. But it turns out that it's not that big of a deal. But what had originally been in the script for the final episode was, for those that know the series, in and out, there is a scene at the very beginning where Brian meets Justin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that kind of dialogue out on the street corner outside of the bar. And it's basically how the whole series kind of kicks off. And so what Dan and Rod had explained to me was that they wanted to create, and they used a musical term, I believe it was coda, and I hope I'm getting that right, but what they wanted to create was the final kind of the scene that would leave us all as the series went off was a recreation of that scene with two new characters. And what we had shot was myself, the Brandon character, essentially in the role of Brian, and then this other, new young kid who was standing outside of the club, kind of, intrigued and interested and not quite sure, what he was doing there or if he needed to be there. And then the dialogue was going to be exactly the same. The exact same scene was going to recreate itself, which, I kind of read as, since it was the end, it was the end of the fifth season and the story had been told, it was kind of their way of saying, and the beat goes on, so to speak. That we've told, this is the story of these people over the last 5 years, and their story is done as far as we're concerned, but, this will continue to go on, and this will continue to happen, and people will continue to learn the lessons and about life and all of the things that happened over those amazing 5 years. Unfortunately, it was summer of 2005, and I was home. I was actually in Halifax, Nova Scotia, watching. I was there for the summer shooting 2 projects, and I was able to sit and watch the episodes, play on Canadian television, and the final episode aired, and the scene didn't happen, and I was like, oh, and I didn't know if it would make it in or not. I mean, you always have that, that suspicion that something may not make it in. It may end up on the cutting room floor, as they say. But literally, the very next morning, I woke up to an email, a really nice, great email from Sheila Hawken, who was one of the producers on the show, and it was very apologetic and very, just very heartfelt. And she had basically, forgot to email me and let me know what had happened on the cut. It was a timing issue, and, they didn't have enough, the show was only an hour long, and they had so much great footage. And it's an hour-long show, I mean, and you've got so much great footage, and you've got to tell the story you want to tell, and so they ended it the way that they did. And when I watched it, for one split second, I thought, I wonder where that scene went. And then for the rest of the night, I just kind of marveled at the way that they did an amazing job, and I wouldn't, other than, having the footage for myself, I wouldn't have changed a thing. I thought it was just an amazing ending.
Yeah, definitely. But that's neat to know that. I mean, it's been 9 years or so since the series ended, and I was just talking to Scott on the previous interview about a lot of fans did not like the way it ended, with the fact that Justin wasn't there for Brian at the end. So and it ended with Brian just dancing all by himself in Babylon. So knowing that there could have been a different type of ending, I think that would have been great. So, well, at least you had the experience, and you filmed it. Maybe whenever they do like a Blu-ray deluxe edition, they'll have like an alternate ending or something like that, because that would be cool to see that.
There are plenty of rumors, and I think they're probably started more by the fans than anything. But I mean, it's a great rumor to start. If there were ever anything to come out and extra footage or some sort of further, it would be a marvel to see it happen. But I'd be on board. And let's hope that the extra footage comes out sometime, because I wouldn't mind seeing it either.
Yeah. We were just also talking about that the life of this show has just continued on. New generations, new young kids are watching this now, And we were talking about the possibility of, now that Veronica Mars fans stood behind their Kickstarter program, and now we have a Veronica Mars theatrical movie coming out. What's the status of something like this happening for the Queer as Folk Gang? And Scott and Gail are both on board with it and are working on things. And if he said if the writing script came by that was really good and the writing really showed that it would be worth doing it, that they would all be back definitely to continue the story, because of course it's it would be almost 10 years later now, and of course they're not all hanging out in Babylon anymore, so they're all grown up, and it'd be neat to see where they are now, and especially it'd be neat if to see where Brandon is too. He was a small but yet impactful role, I believe, on the show, and it's great that you were part of you're part of such a show that has grown, and you've got fans worldwide now. That has to be very humbling.
It's again, like I said, I hate to use the word because I am starting to sound like a broken record, but I'm incredibly lucky, and humbling is not even the word. The fact that I can turn on, and we get so I don't want to say jaded, but we get so taken out of what is really going on. I always laugh when I hear the Louis C.K. comedy where he's talking about flying on an airplane and people complaining about the Wi-Fi not working, and I'm like, and the joke is essentially you're flying through the air in a chair. Things are really good. And my point simply being is that I turn on Twitter and I talk to countless people, but they're all from all over the world. They're everywhere, and it's Twitter doesn't really, if you don't step back and think about it, just every once in a while, you start to forget just exactly how amazing, for me, just how amazing of an experience that this has all been. I rapped in 2005. That's almost 9 years ago, and to this very day, here I am. I'm sitting with you. I've got one of my fans hiding in the background there as co-host. I've got countless people listening. That's 9 years ago. There's a lot of people who are not as lucky to have done something so amazing 9 years ago and still get the accolades for it. So I'm all for it. And if someone came to me and said, look, we've got the blessing, whether it were Dan and Ron who blessed somebody else, or they actually came on board, or whoever needed to do it said, we've got it, let's go, let's move forward, we want you to be a part of it, I wouldn't have to think twice. It would be a no-brainer.
Yeah. I think that would be interesting because, since Brandon did come on at the end, it would be neat to see, what developed with him. Of course, the other cast members have, had 5 years of character history, but it'd be neat to see, just a little bit more about Brandon. So, I'm going to bring Lauren on, since she's the one of the mottos that I have here. I've been on the air for 2 years, and one of the things is if you help book somebody or if you want somebody on the show, I'll bring you on, and you can be co-host, and you can, share the experience with me. So Lauren is a big fan of Queer as Folk, and she was telling me about you, and we got this whole started. So thank you very much, Lauren, for bringing this on. So welcome, Lauren.
Hello.
Hello. So I will go ahead and just let you do some talking. This is your chance to spend some time with Ryan, and ask. If I try to get some of the just basic questions out of the way, but if you have any questions, and also Twitter listeners, if you want, or listeners that are on Twitter, if you want any questions asked, you can tweet them to On Air with Doug, and I'll ask him, or he's actually tweeting too, so he's actually doing multitasking right now, so you can ask him, and he can read them online. So go ahead.
I'm trying.
Hi again, Ryan.
I'm good, Lauren. Hey, you know what? Before we get started, Lauren, I think I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank you for Douglas. Lauren was very good. Actually, a few people were very good this past holiday season. I tend to use Twitter to provide people with my childhood memories and fun and games, and so if anyone who follows me on Twitter, they probably are aware that I'm a huge fan of the A Christmas Story movie. You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Mm-hmm. So Lauren was one of a couple people that managed to get me a small token of appreciation, maybe, or just sheer humor to my mailbox, and so I'm now the proud owner of a pair of bright green A Christmas Story fragile pants, sweatpants, or sleeper pants. Which I guess I'll have to fashion show and take some pictures at some point, but that'll maybe have to wait till next Christmas. Now I don't want to overshadow other holidays, but so I just
you can overshadow other holidays.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that. I figure everyone else is saying the same thing. So I just figured I'd take that opportunity to possibly embarrass you just slightly, just because I know you're a Patriots fan as well. Because I got to go against the Patriots every chance I get. Having said that, thank you very much for those, and Jesse, the shirts and hat also, and everybody else who sent me Christmas cards. My mantle at home, my mom, I had more cards on the mantle from you guys than my parents got from their friends. So my mom's a little confused by all of that.
Well, since we were talking about the Pats, and now we know they're not going to the Super Bowl, Mary wants to know who you're voting for to win the Super Bowl. I already know, but let her know.
Well, it's funny how the first question tonight is all about the Super Bowl. For those who don't know, I'm in NFC North, Chicago Bears, and unfortunately they had a rough go on their last game against the Packers and ended up not going into the playoffs. But given the current situation, state of affairs, I've really got to pull for Peyton and the Denver Broncos. I realize Seattle's probably a little more proximate to my location, but Peyton Manning, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him come out with another ring in Denver, and I just think they're going to be the better team on the day.
I don't have a choice.
Yeah, I'm out of this topic. I know nothing about sports, so you guys just work. You can go right ahead with that then.
Douglas is like, how did we get this guy on?
That's all right. You go right ahead.
Also, Alex and Maddie wanted me to send you their love. They couldn't stay up for this.
Oh, look, Douglas. These guys. This is the thing with the international love. I get more tweets and more love and affection from across the oceans. And of course, every time I'm floating around on Twitter, making fun of people, they're asleep. And of course, they wake up in the morning, and I'm asleep, and I wake up to a bunch more texts, blaspheming me because I, tweeted while they were in bed. I mean, obviously, there's nothing you can do about time zones, but my love right back to them, and I'll see them in the morning when I wake up.
I just wanted to interject real quick. They deleted the tweet. I guess they misspelled it. Never mind. It got deleted. Go ahead. I'll ask them to come back on. Go ahead.
You know what? Let me do this, Douglas. I'm getting tweets, and of course, I'm sitting here trying to type the answers, and I think it's probably better if I just speak them out. So, is it Lisa at Lisasaurus Rex? She's wondering about the episodes and who I keep in touch with from the show. Again, because of the nature of my storyline, and basically the people that I got to work with, which was everybody on the show to some degree, but it was primarily Gail. There weren't a ton of interactions that I made in kind of deep friendships created. However, every once in a while in those first couple of years, you'd end up at a party with someone, and they'd be the same person there. Bobby Gantz, Robert Gantz, and I ended up in the same room a couple of times for audition purposes and whatnot. So he and I seem to keep in touch to some degree, and I've reached out to him a couple of times for projects that myself and partners of mine have been producing and in town, and I always try and make it out to see Bobby if he's performing in a play or whatnot. And that's kind of it. I mean, it was funny because the joke, we got to the Queer as Folk convention back in June, and I forget exactly the words, but Michelle Clooney walked into the room, and I was kind of going around, and everybody kind of remembered it. And so someone introduced me, or pointed me out to Michelle, and she was like, "Pleased to meet you." And then I realized, it dawned on me that the only time I'd ever come across Michelle Clooney was during a table read for one episode, and so it was almost like I was meeting her for the first time. And that was kind of the nature of my character. I was very solitary, and if I wasn't shooting with Gail, I was shooting with a cast of day players or co-stars or extras for that matter. And so I mean, ultimately, screen time was primarily with Gail, and the rest of them I just didn't have the opportunity to get to know that well at all.
Yeah. Now I know that times have changed for the gay community from 10 years ago to now. But even though in the 2000s, having a show like Queer as Folk on the air was such a groundbreaking and great thing for our community. But you were talking about that you were told, hey, there's this role, I need you to go make a tape right now today. Now, have you ever had any problem with people saying, no, you better not do that because that's that would be bad for your career, or something along that lines, like a negative aspect of going out for a role that's out of your territory?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. On one of the things on my website, I've got a thing, it's called 20 Questions, and it's essentially you can ask questions and I'll answer them as long as they're appropriate to some degree. And I think that one of the first questions that came through was what was it about, or did you ever feel like Brandon, the role of Brandon, would affect your career in a negative way or in anything like that? And the way the question was asked was because it was a gay character on a show like Queer as Folk. Mm-hmm. And even earlier today tonight on Twitter, I think I saw someone say something about, were you instructed not to do the show like some of the other actors back in the day? And basically the general answer is that luckily, even though I don't think it would have affected me even then, I came in the middle of the 5th season, so the show had already broken ground and pushed envelopes and gotten all the accolades and critics, and I mean it was a hit. I mean there was no question that this show was the show that if you could be on it, you'd be on it. Mm-hmm. And then secondarily to that, it never really. Once I met, I mean, I will be honest. There was kind of the question of, okay, is this something that you do? I mean, you kind of have to have that conversation with yourself at all times. I mean, it's just responsible. It's just responsible. But once I had met Dan and Ron, the exec producers, they instilled in me, just from their belief in what they were doing, a belief in myself that this was something that I not only could do but wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And it very quickly became about the character of Brandon. And frankly, and this is generally speaking for me, I don't consider, I mean, we talk about the the 7 main stories in cinema and drama, and whether it's revenge or love or whatever the case may be. Those are emotions and feelings and things that every human being in some fashion, in some point in their life, and maybe multiple, they go through. And whether it's if it's a love story, whether it's a man and a woman, or 2 men or 2 women, or whatever else you can come up with, if it's well done, I mean, if you've got the what I found was just the respect and love and care for the project that Dan and Ron had, it very quickly became not a story about, what people were like, oh, so you're going to play a gay character? it wasn't that. It was a character who had, you know, conflicts and drive and you know, had to get something at the end of his day, and that's what he wanted, and that was the power. It just, before I even read a script, it was Dan and Ron, and they just kind of were like, you made it right for me, and then it was never about that. And no matter what, you know, on a day on set, telling friends, telling parents, telling family members, telling girlfriends, whatever the case may be, it never was about what it was I was playing. It was about how the character was supposed to be played, and that's what I love about amazing drama. It doesn't matter who you are; it's what you are.
Exactly. Sunshine, a.k.a. Days Live 414, has a good question. She said, did you ever feel any negativity from the Brian and Justin fans during your storyline? Now, we didn't have social media back then like this where you can have that instant access, but since social media, you know, these people are that not just with just this show, but with shows in general, get very territorial over couples. And when somebody comes in and messes with that, then they get really, you know, they kind of blur the lines of reality and fiction. But have you had any comments on that? You know, that you messed with their couple?
Well, you know, it's. I go back to the comment that came up at the convention where, you know, they asked me how I felt being the bad guy, and you know, for whatever reason, I wasn't, you know, and this is, and I would never speak for any of the other actors and or their characters, but for me, I knew nothing about the couple. I knew nothing about the story, and frankly, you know, from outside the box, it wasn't like the Brian character hadn't been in this position before. I really wasn't a cog to any of that. I just happened to be a bit more of a conflict than I think anyone was used to. And so that was where the struggle and the conflict, I think, for the viewers came in. But no, I never felt it never felt like that to me. I mean, and granted, like I said, there wasn't that ability to kind of read those things daily and by the second. But I think in the end, the lessons learned from what came from my existence ended up being a good thing for everybody. So regardless of whether or not the Brian and Justin couple, whether or not I was, a wrench in that circle, I think everyone made out all right at the end of it.
Yeah, that show. I mean, like you were saying, Brian from episode 1 until almost to the end, he had more sex with anybody than anybody on any television show I've ever seen. Let's see here. I'm just going through reading the Twitter here. Lauren, do you have any questions while I'm looking at this?
Jess asked me to ask you how many inches.
Oh my God! No.
Douglas, I got to be honest with you. None of it surprises me. None of it surprises me.
They are some dirty birds.
Well, but it also won't surprise them that I'm going to politely decline the answer and walk away with a very big smirk on my face.
Very good answer. Oh my! Just leave it to your imagination, ladies and gentlemen.
Look, I guess I just need the right. I guess I just need the right job. I mean,
exactly.
We just need the right job on film. I mean, I guess that's all that has to happen.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny. You guys are crazy. I mean, I've never been around such a lively bunch of cast of characters. That's for sure.
They're lively, all right.
Yeah, for sure. Bless this person's name. I can never say it, so I'll just spell it TSUKIGALLETA. Bless your heart, I don't know how to say it. But she says, we never got to know Brandon's backstory. What did they tell you about him?
Well, it's a great question, and to be honest, I wasn't really given a whole lot other than what they expected of Brandon in terms of how he was going to affect the others. He kind of came out of nowhere. It was kind of this, like, he's new in town. The best murmurings around the club was all you really got from the actual show.
Yeah.
So I was able to come in with, pretty much whatever I wanted, in terms of where I was coming from and all that. And I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, I actually spent more time trying to make sure that I was being true to what was happening on screen with the conflicts and the attitude and the character, and so I guess if memory serves, I don't know how much I actually went back for myself. I did the standard, how old I was, where I came from, what I did for a living, where, who my parents were, that kind of just, that's pretty this. And but as I got deeper and deeper into the scripts, I really wanted to, I really saw this kind of this piece of meat that was, it had to be chewed viciously and voraciously and not so much marinated. It just had to be, delved into and really cooked. So I found myself, in the first episode 506, I believe, I don't say a word. We shot that entire episode without me having to speak, and that was, people were like, oh, that must have been great. And I was like, well, it was, but then you also had to make sure that you were, we get so much given to us with words. You can get away with, the most powerful thing ever in the world on screen is nothing at all. And I'm sure that's been said much more poetically over the years than how I just did. But, when you've got words to kind of develop what it is to the point you're trying to make, then it's an escape. So anyway, to answer the question, I did the thing where I made sure that I was, an intelligent, affluent, smart guy. To some degree, I watched some previous episodes and as much as I could of Gale's stuff and really tried to not mimic what he was doing, but this was somebody that I had to basically go toe to toe with. So I needed, I needed every little piece of arsenal that I could find, and his stuff, and he's, I've said this before, he's a talented guy, and just moments of his silence are worth, so much more from other lesser actors. So I really knew that I had to be, in tune with what was going on the day, probably more so than what I did when I was 7 to get the scar on my knee.
All right. Go ahead, Lauren. I'll let you ask a question. Then I have another one from Twitter. Go ahead.
I guess a lot of us are probably wondering when and if we're ever going to get to see Mohawk Midnight Runner.
Yes. I'm kind of in constant communication with my very good friend Zoe and the director of the movie that you're speaking of. She is still trying to make sure that she gets as much ground covered in the festivals with that film. I think I did tweet this a couple of times back in October. The Imagination. It's one of those two, and I'm getting it wrong. But that was a film festival, Imaginative, and the Mohawk Midnight Runners won Best Canadian Short, and it was just a fantastic film to be a part of. And so the answer to your question, she's trying to get as much ground as she can covered in festivals, and as soon as she feels like that has been exhausted, I suspect she's going to start to make it accessible. And just to, kind of remain true to her and her wishes for that film, I've agreed not to get it out until she's ready to have people watching it outside of festivals. So ASAP, because I want it out there as well, but I'm waiting on her go-ahead for that.
Okay. And any more charity races coming up?
That's an interesting question. I had a phone call this morning with my brother. My brother Mike, he lives in Vancouver. He has invited me to go to Vancouver to run the Vancouver Marathon in May. I have not yet confirmed that I'm going to do that, just based on timing. But that would be the first this year, and then I believe I'm setting my sights on both the Chicago Marathon and Philadelphia Marathon at the end of the year. And the charity, Douglas, just so you know, Lauren's referring to AIDS Project Los Angeles.
Oh, very good.
Which is the group I've been running with. I basically started my running with them back in 2004, and they're one of those groups where they train you and they give you the tools to run a marathon, and you raise money for the AIDS Project Los Angeles, which is long story short, a direct services provider to clients living with HIV and AIDS within Los Angeles County. Amazing people to work with, and they do amazing work. And I remember the day that it all kind of came full circle for me with that organization. And I've run and put money in other places, but that's just a group that even just for the sole reason that they kind of, if running is a passion in my life, and I assure you that it is, they're the people that put it there. So most of my races I do some type of charity drive to put a little more money back into that organization.
Well, that's awesome. I commend you and respect you for doing that. That's a good question, Lauren, because I was going to jump on that, but you guys. That
was Mary's question.
Awesome. All right, Lori, which is at Lulu1423. She says, "Hi, I'm from Ontario. That is so cool that you're Canadian. Are you a proud Canadian? Some actors leave here and forget where they come from." I love Canada's home. For whatever that means to you, whatever the word home, and I think a lot of people have a lot of different definitions of the word home, and some probably not good. But my brother and his family are on the West Coast, and my parents, they're still loving life on the East Coast, and I've got friends all across, from one coast to the other, and I'm lucky that I can come here to Los Angeles and live and work and exist and do what I love to do, and then go to Canada and do the exact same thing. And when I'm in Toronto, which is usually most summers, and then whenever else I can manage to find the work up there, I love being there. And it hasn't really gone unnoticed that I tend in the last couple of years to do more work in Canada, and whether or not that's because I'm an actor in Los Angeles and it's a draw, or I just haven't been there in a while, so I'm new. It's hard to say, but I do love going to Toronto. I am planning to be there this summer, and if that goes well, in terms of work, I don't know when I would come back to LA, but if I, like I say, if I continue to work, there isn't much point. Yeah. I love LA. Don't get me wrong, but no, I'm a Canadian, and I will always be a Canadian. Yeah, definitely awesome. Now this one comes from their screen name is Gail Harold Spain. Now, this is pending that you watched the series or watched the majority of the series or have a familiarity with the cast, the characters. But this is just a hypothetical question here. Which Chorus Folk character would you choose to have a relationship with Brandon? Hello from Spain.
Can you say that one more time?
Which character would you choose to have a relationship with Brandon? Like if you were in Brandon's shoes and you were like on the show, before just this final part, who would you like to have had a relationship with? on screen?
Well, there's, to be 100% true to, let's call it the character, I would probably guess that he wouldn't be the relationship type. Not to kind of just bite off a piece of the Brian character and say, I was, just trying to be just like that. But he was definitely leading a big life. He was definitely out there living it up. So that, I guess that would be my first guess, or my first suggestion. However, again, going back to the truth of what was shot, they did at one point or another have the plan to, have the Brandon character walk out into the middle of the street and find the new Justin. I don't think he had a name, but it was a young actor out of Toronto, who, essentially people would be like, oh my God, the kid just looks just like Justin. And the conversation was the same. So, maybe it ends up being, just a repetitive thing, and maybe that's a cop-out answer as well. But, a lot of the characters, the actors themselves are friends of mine. So, in terms of character work, I got to stick with it was Brandon. It was him doing his thing, and he probably was going to run around Babylon and Woody's and all of that as much as he could. So basically, the character that you don't know the name, every single one of them.
That's a good answer. Well, hopefully, a decade later, hopefully Brandon, settled down, found love, got that whole ego out of his system, and I'm the romantic type, so I'm hoping
it's very true. It's a good point. If we were talking about 10 years later, if the show was going right now, I suspect there would have been a growth. I feel like one of the speeches that happened in Brian's bedroom between Brandon and Brian, the writing tried to allude to an intelligence in Brandon, like a youthful kind of, coming to get you, and whether it was an ignorant speech or if it was actually based in intelligence, and I really feel like I've tried to bring this kind of like new world order intelligence into it. I feel like he did eventually probably get his oats sown, so to speak, and probably did make some conscious, intelligent decisions. Where that would have ended up, it's hard to say.
Yeah. All right. Lauren, do you have anything else?
Colleen would like to know if you would go to Bibolo.
If I would go
Bilbo. If you would go to Bilbo to the con, if asked.
Oh, well,
in
yes,
Spain.
Of course.
Yeah.
If that became, if that was something that organization and that group thought would benefit them, look, being part of the way that I spend my days when I'm not running around from audition to audition and hopefully acting as much as possible. For those that don't know this, I do stick my hand into some event production, again in the running world. And my point being is that I understand how putting on an event goes in terms of costs and the way things work and this and that. And so, I appreciate that they probably would have loved to have the entire cast over there and put them up for, weeks and weeks and have everybody come and rotate in and out and get as much out of them as they could. But, at some point you look at expense and you look at value to the consumer and, return on investment and all that stuff. So, it doesn't surprise me at all. Given that there are some regular series regulars that aren't going, again, I would have said if it had happened that again I'm very lucky. But for me to be asked before one of the other series regulars would be a miracle. But yes, of course, if Spain called, I would go running.
Yeah, I just moved back here to California last March, and I am kicking myself because I did not know about this convention that was in LA. I would have sold my firstborn had I had one to go to that. So I really hope that there's another one in the future, because I cannot believe I missed out on that. That's like a dream come true for me.
Now, why didn't I think of that?
They, it's. I think based on what I hear and based on what I get from, I mean, people are willing. I mean, the Spain thing happened and the LA thing happened, and I mean, everybody seemed to enjoy themselves. I mean, I know that I had a ball. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I had so much fun, and everyone kind of looked at me and they're like, "What is wrong with you? Why are you smiling so much?" And I was like, "This is fun. I mean, this is just amazing fun." So, someone could call me and ask me to go to North Pole to do something, and I'd probably say yes.
One of the listeners, Days Live 414, replied to the question I asked a few minutes ago, and she says, "Spoken like a true descendant of Brian Kenny. Great answer."
Well, I won't lie. Everybody learned some lessons over that storyline, and I certainly wasn't excluded.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. All right. Anything else, Lauren? Because we got to wrap up.
Not that I can think of.
This is your one shot.
I asked my main question. My main question was about the Mohawk one.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else, I've been asking everybody else's questions.
Yes.
Well, see, Douglas, I think, and again, it goes back to Jesse's question. The thing that might not be completely made aware by the Midnight Runners thing is that it's a movie about a character that streaks naked. So I got hired to be basically a streaker. It's actually a really great story, but essentially I'm running around in the streets of this Indian reservation stark naked for the better half of the first half of the film.
Oh, well, I'm going to write that down, because I definitely don't want to miss that. Oh, wow. How did that come about? I mean, that's kind of an interesting storyline.
Well, okay, so I'm Richard Van Camp, and I'm hoping I'm getting his name right. He is an author in Canada, and he writes a lot of great stories about the native peoples up there. And there was a story he did, and it wasn't called Mohawk Midnight Runners. I believe it was. I don't have any of this written down, so I'm blanking on it now. But essentially, he and my friend Zoe had been talking, and he's a very talented writer, and he went to her and he said, "I want you to do this." He goes, "I want you to put this into a film format, and I want you to make it amazing and take it and just run with it." Pardon the pun. And that was the story I heard afterwards. But I got a call that I was if I wanted, I could go in and audition for this character that is, his name is Justin, and he streaks, he runs at night, and he's best friends with these three other guys on in this Indian territory, and I hate using the term, but to just say it quickly, I was the token white guy, and I had my issues, I had my problems, but what would happen is I would, when we went out drinking and we'd get drunk, I would hear the song Come On Eileen by Dexy's Midnight Runners. And of course that was my party song. So I would run into the bathroom, I'd take off all my clothes, and then I'd streak out of the bar and I'd go running for God knows how long. I don't want to say too much, because my character isn't the main character, but the lead in the movie is having again, it's a story about the native peoples. He's having difficulty with his life. He's not accomplishing anything. There's drinking, there's smoking, there's unemployment. There's all of these things kind of harassing him in his life. And he and his friends are driving along the road one night, and they see me running naked down the street. Of course, they think I'm hammered and loaded and just streaking, so they start making fun of me. But as they drive by, he realizes that I'm completely sober and I'm at complete happiness, and it's the one moment that there's absolutely nothing wrong and complete bliss, and I'm just I'm with myself, and it's the most amazing thing ever. And which is fine, but it doesn't make any sense, because what ends up happening is my character ends up committing suicide. And so it's kind of this question of, why did that happen? I mean, what was wrong? Nobody seemed to know. There were no real answers. This main character, he starts, he's in trying to improve his life, he gives running at night naked a shot. Anyway, long story short, the three of them end up running every night at midnight naked, and it betters their lives, and it's kind of this way of remembering their friend and being true to what they think is an improvement in their lives and being better people. So that's how that all came about. The audition was interesting. I can put it to you that way, but.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. I like that. I mean, not because of the streaking, but because of the backstory. Now that you said that, that's definitely something I want to check out. I hear you, Lauren. You just want to check it out for those reasons. Oh boy.
It's okay. It's all right. It's great because it's very meaningful. It's an amazing story, but she does it so well. It comes across as a very funny, light story, and you don't get kind of brought down by the stewards. I mean, there's a couple moments where you're like, oh God, but it's a really well done thing. And as soon as I have access to it and make sure that people can see it, you will all know about it. I promise you.
Yeah. All right. Now, wishful thinking here. Who is someone you would love to work with? Like your dream co-star? Who's something that you just admire and you would love to work with?
God. There's so many that you just you know that you're going to get the meat and potatoes right off the screen, and then there's just some that you think would just be amazing to be on set with. I've heard so many great stories about how fun it is to work with George Clooney. Just because he's always such a great guy on set, and there's practical jokes, and it's always a fun set. But I always go back to, the people that just, and we talked about it before, the people that can do so much with so little. And I really think that Kevin Spacey was and is just a guy that had everything that I've seen him in all the years. He just has this look on his face that you just know what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on, it's the scariest thing you've ever seen. He's one. I was at a birthday party Saturday night for a good friend of mine. He was turning 50, and they had a big screen up in one of the rooms, and somehow, I'm not even sure how it got on, but Fight Club was on, and I think if you'd asked me, what role is the role that you would most like to have played, and there's a million of those as well, but I always go back to Fight Club and just how cool that movie was, and Brad Pitt and Ed Norton. I mean, just what they did in that film was awesome. And again, it kind of made me want to just wonder what it would be like to be on set in that experience. God, I mean, part of me just wants to say anybody. I mean, just to be able to work and have someone to work against and work with. Jack Nicholson. I mean, that would be what an adventure that would be. I got really lucky. Not that I was an amazing, incredible fan, but I knew who Julia Ormond was, from various projects, and I ended up, being able to, I'm able to say that I played a love interest of her on a miniseries for Lifetime, and she was amazing. I mean, she's such a gracious and glorious person to be around, and I don't know if I would have answered your question with her name, but now having worked with her, I would love to work with her again. So many, and I'm not even remembering. I mean, I couldn't possibly even come up with.
I know. That's just a question that someone asked, and it's really, when you think about, if you're a fan of the industry, there's so many great talents out there. To pick one is just hard because there's so many great people out there, and every year there's new ones that are popping up that are just phenomenal. So I respect that. Well, Lauren, is there anything you want to say before we go?
Aside from the fact that we know you're busy, Ryan, but our screeners miss you.
Aw. Well,
Jess is going to go on strike if you don't come out of being MIA.
On strike? Oh my! I didn't know you guys were unionized.
That's funny.
All right, I'm gonna have to up my Twitter work here, and well, you know what? I should mention this, and this is something that I've been working on, and I was gonna do it over the holidays, but the holidays just got away from me. But for those of you that, and I'm not sure how it would come about, but Misty, my very amazing web mistress, has enabled me to be able to do live web chats, which is what I was going to do over the holidays at some point as a kind of a Christmas, come on, visual webcam, not audible, obviously, because that gets difficult, but at some point very soon, my goal is to come on into a live webcam with everybody, the RS Greeners that want to be a part of it. And, of course, I'll have to pick a time frame that works for the entire world.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll have to tape it or something. But yeah, that's on the books. And Misty, if you're listening, I know I just threw you under the bus, but you know me. That's how I do.
Yes, you will probably shut down the servers of wherever you're doing that if you do a live broadcast like that. I can just tell by your fans. They would just the URL would crash right then and there.
So you're suggesting don't do it at Starbucks? Is that what you're suggesting, Douglas?
Yeah. No, they would probably prefer you do it at home. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So. Yeah. Hey, these ladies are full force tonight, that's for sure. Well, I want to thank Lauren so much for help setting this up. I'm glad that you were able to partake in this as well. Thank you, everyone out there that's listening from all across the world that's staying up late and waking up early and not even going to sleep. We're going to be doing this again next week on Monday we have Robert Gant and Harris Allen, who played Ben and Hunter, and then we end the week on Thursday with Michelle Clooney, who played Melanie Marco. So that's going to be it for this month regarding Queer as Folk. I'm working on some new ones for next month, but I'm working on getting everybody on the show one by one slowly. So Ryan, I want to thank you so much. I'm glad that you have been part of this family and that your fan base is just growing. I mean, you're amazing, and I just cannot wait till someone just snatches you up literally for a role that we can watch you on a weekly basis or in a feature or anything like that, because you definitely got the talent and skills.
Oh, Douglas, thank you. I'll say it one more time. Just very lucky, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And you guys are great, and the RS Greeners are amazing, and they all know. And if you don't, then yes, I love you all. And and good, and have fun with those guys next week, Bobby and Michelle. They're a riot, and you'll get some great conversation out of them as well. Say hello to both of them for me, and thank you so much.
No problem. You can follow Ryan on Twitter at Ryan Scott Greene with an E at the end. Don't forget the IDE. Thank you, Ryan. We'll keep in touch, okay?
Yes, please, definitely.
All right. Thanks so much, Ryan. And Lauren, thank you so much for being part of the show as well.
Thank you for letting me.
No problem. I'll talk to everybody soon, okay? Bye, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's show, double feature. We got a little bit of double feature here tonight. We'll be doing it again next week when we have the ones I just mentioned, except this time we're doing a reunion. And unless anybody spoiled it to Robert doesn't know that Harris is going to be on the show. So I would hope and pray that nobody ruins the surprise. So that's why I haven't included his actual screen name in the tweets that I'm doing. So I want to kind of bring him on as a surprise. If he already knows or got wind or anything like that, then we'll still play along as a surprise. But anyway, so that's Monday, so you definitely don't want to miss that, and that's at 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. So you guys will have to stay awake or get up early or set your alarms or don't go to bed like you did today. So once again, just like in the tradition of the last few shows I've done with Gail and Scott, and now let's just have a little bit of fun here.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, take it down!
All right, I have to play that because it just gets you in that chorus folk mode. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will be back next week. Have a great night, everybody. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to tonight's show. Be sure to see what's coming up next at www.onairwithdouglas.com. With over 240 shows in the archives, take a look around and listen to all the great guests you missed. Follow the show on Twitter @OnAirWithDoug. Until next time, have a great night.